All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today we're unpacking a truly fascinating concept from Vedic astrology that might just completely change how you view your past financial hurdles. Have you ever felt like you've had to work twice as hard as literally everyone else just to achieve a basic level of financial security? Well, what if those financial hardships weren't actually a punishment? What if instead they were a deliberate, rigorous preparation for unbreakable, long-lasting wealth? We're going to dive deep into the source material on the placement of Saturn in the second house. It's an exploration of the discipline of value where we'll see exactly how delay and difficulty can ultimately forge an unshakable foundation for your life. Here's a quick roadmap for our time today. We're going to cover the discipline of value, navigate through early financial struggles, see how that leads to reshaping priorities, explore building wealth brick by brick, and finally wrap up with the ultimate Saturn lesson. Starting with Section 1, the discipline of value, understanding Saturn's blueprint. Let's lay the absolute groundwork for what we're talking about here. Okay, let's break down this core definition. In Vedic astrology, having Saturn sitting in your second house is an incredibly potent placement. Traditionally, the second house governs things like your money, your immediate family, your speech, your fundamental sense of self-worth, and your long-term security. And Saturn? Well, Saturn is basically the ultimate taskmaster of the cosmos. According to the texts, Saturn's main method of teaching is through delay, heavy responsibility, and intense discipline. So think about it. When you put the ultimate cosmic taskmaster directly into the house of money and self-worth, the core theme becomes incredibly clear. Financial hardship reshapes your values completely. It's a blueprint that demands you learn the true value of a dollar, not by having it handed to you on a silver platter, but by having it actively withheld until you are truly fundamentally ready for it. Moving on to Section 2, navigating early financial struggles, the crucible of youth. Let's look at how this actually plays out in the earliest stages of life. When we map out the timeline of this placement, a really distinct pattern emerges. In childhood, there are typically some pretty obvious financial limitations. Maybe the family went through a tough time or resources were just incredibly tight. But what does that actually do? It forces extreme resourcefulness. Then, as we move into early adulthood, we see early money struggles and notably slow financial growth. While your peers might seem to be striking it rich or landing these high-paying jobs effortlessly, Saturn enforces a much slower pace. Wealth here requires immense patience and consistent effort. It firmly and completely closes the door on quick gains. It's really a crucible designed to test your endurance right out of the gate. Navigating that early scarcity directly breeds what the source material describes as extreme caution with spending. Honestly, when you've experienced the anxiety of not having enough, every single financial decision you make becomes heavy. You learn very quickly and very intimately to distinguish your true survival needs from fleeting, superficial wants. You aren't just being cheap here. You're deeply calculating the real-world value and utility of every single resource that leaves your hands. Which brings us to Section 3, reshaping priorities and responsibilities, the middle transformation. As we move out of youth and into the middle phase of life, the fundamental mindset begins to shift dramatically. There is a massive shift in mindset that happens during this phase. It's a complete 180 from wanting status symbols, the flashy cars, the designer labels, the things people buy just to look wealthy, to craving genuine security and stability. For someone walking the Saturn path, their experiences with early scarcity trigger a total shift away from superficial wealth. They really don't care about looking rich. They crave the absolute, grounded reality of being secure. They want a roof that absolutely won't leak and a bank account that can easily weather a storm. But here's the thing. Saturn's influence bleeds way past your personal wallet. Because the second house also rules family and speech, that intense discipline applies there too. You very often see a highly serious attitude toward family responsibilities. People with this placement might find themselves carrying pretty heavy financial burdens for their parents or siblings, feeling a deep, unavoidable sense of duty. And fascinatingly, it also deeply affects speech. Saturn makes you incredibly careful with your words. You might actually speak less than others, but because your words are so measured and thoughtful, they carry significantly greater impact. Every word, just like every dollar, is weighed heavily before it's spent. And honestly, this is the emotional core of this middle transformation, learning your self-worth beyond money. It is so incredibly easy in our society to tie our self-esteem straight to our net worth. But the financial setbacks orchestrated by Saturn, they're actually designed to break that link completely. They force you into a corner where you have to look in the mirror and realize that your intrinsic value as a human being is not and never will be determined by your bank balance. It's a painful but deeply, deeply liberating realization. All right, Section 4, Building wealth brick by brick. The master builder. This is where the story turns. This is exactly where all that intense preparation finally begins to pay off. Success for this placement absolutely does not come from winning the lottery or stumbling into some lucky break. It comes from an exact, unyielding formula: persistence, saving, and long-term planning. It is quite literally an architectural approach to your finances. You aren't just pitching a tent, you are laying a massive concrete foundation. Every dollar saved is a brick. Every budget followed is a layer of mortar. Sure, it takes longer, but a brick house easily withstands the hurricane that blows the tent away. Because you had to struggle so intensely early on, you emerge in the second half of life as an absolute master of your domain. The source points out that individuals with this placement develop incredibly strong financial discipline later in life. You become fundamentally better at budgeting than most people. And why? Because you know the stakes. You become highly skilled at investing, focusing on safe, long-term compounding rather than taking risky gambles. And perhaps most importantly, you fiercely protect the assets you've built. Absolutely no one is taking away the castle you built with your own bare hands. And there it is, Saturn's ultimate reward: lasting wealth through pure endurance. The money and the security you accumulate later in life aren't fragile. They are highly durable because they are forged in the fires of patience, immense personal sacrifice, and hard-won experience. By delaying your gratification for decades, you ensure that your security is virtually unbreakable. You have earned every single inch of it. Finally, Section 5, the ultimate Saturn lesson: wisdom over accumulation. To wrap up our explainer, let's look at the true philosophical heart of this source material. Stepping back and looking at the big picture, we realize the ultimate goal of Saturn in the second house was actually never just about hoarding a giant pile of money. Money was simply the classroom. The actual curriculum was about developing deep, profound wisdom. It was about building unbreakable emotional and practical resilience. It was about cultivating a mature, deeply respectful relationship with all resources: your time, your energy, your speech, and your capital. The texts actually suggest that once you fully learn these lessons, Saturn frequently lifts the heavy restrictions, finally rewarding you with the sustained stability you've been working so hard toward. Now, a quick but important caveat: astrology is a huge, complex system. While we've discussed the foundational blueprint today, the exact outcome of Saturn's lessons depends heavily on specific factors in your own birth chart. The specific sign Saturn is in, its dignity, the aspects it makes, and other planetary conjunctions all tailor the precise way this discipline of value actually manifests in your real life. Which leaves us with one incredibly provocative core question that this entire placement forces you to answer. When the chips are down, when comfort and abundance are completely stripped away and absolutely nothing is guaranteed, what do you truly value? How you answer that question through your daily actions and your pure endurance defines exactly what you'll build for your future. So take a second to think about your own foundational values today and ask yourself, could they withstand the test of Saturn? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.